So, first of all, again, thank you all for, making the time to chat today. It's really exciting. I just want to start by verifying some basic information. So, can everyone share with me their full name, spelling, first and last, pronouns, and like your role in the band?
Hi, I'm Michael Gomez. My pronouns are he, him, and I sing for the band and I play rhythm guitar.
Okay, give me just a second. Ba-ba-ba. Singing and rhythm guitar. Awesome, cool. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Jackson Martin, and I'm also he, him, and I play the lead guitar.
Cool. Alrighty.
I'm Zach Tice, and he, him, and I play bass.
Awesome.
The last name is Tice.
Gotcha.
Not Rice.
Yeah, not Rice.
Yeah, we had an interviewer call him Zach Rice once, and that's infamous now.
Ooh.
That's Zach's cool older brother.
It's also printed on a magazine that I have in my room.
No
Yeah,
way.
it's printed in a
Yeah,
magazine.
it's not even ZAC. It was spelled ZACHARY, Rice. Crazy. And then
I forgot about that up until now.
and then I'm Ruben Gomez, RUBEN, and I'm he, him, and I play drums in the band.
Cool. All right. Thank you all for verifying that. Really helpful. I guess we'll just go ahead and get started with these questions. I got some talking points here, etc. I like to think that the questions start really simple and then get like kind of more in depth, a little more, thought provoking as we go. So we'll start with something easy. How did you pick your band name?
I don't think we picked it. I think we just kind of we were in a process of like writing down a bunch of band names. All of them were kind of weird. Like I think I have the list somewhere in one of my old journals. It's like Black Cloud or something weird like that. And then I think Zach just said whoa one day, and we were just like fuck it, that's cool. Might as well use that. So I don't think we like had like a rhyme or reason behind it. It was just kind of like it was just an inside joke. We used to say whoa to each other all the time, and I guess Zach just said it out loud, and we were like, oh, why that should be our band name. Like,
Yeah, and it also felt like a placeholder at first. Like
Mhm.
we were thinking of changing it. Like we'd put on our poll or whatever. Like, should we keep the name or whatever? And, like we talked about changing it. And everybody just like it was like a lot of backlash. Like people didn't want us to change the names. So like, all right, I guess we're stuck with whoa. It's meaningless, but I guess it looks cool.
Yeah. No, I really I'm interested in like I know this might be getting like a little too I don't want to say specific, but I'm wondering like, it's in all caps. Is that like a specific meaning to that or is it just like for style?
I guess if people want to think it's an acronym.
Okay.
Anybody
We've
can come up
joked
with their
about
own
acronyms.
acronym.
It's the
Yeah,
it's an acronym that nobody knows.
Okay.
it's
Gotcha.
style, and it does look kind of weird. It used to be a capital W, lowercase OAH,
Mm-hmm.
and it just looks kind of wrong like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So yeah, all caps looks good.
Okay, gotcha. Um, so similarly, all the tracks on, obviously the latest EP, which is really exciting. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Are in lowercase. Is it like the same thought process? I know this is weird, like talking about punctuation and spelling, but I'm
No, I
just
think it's cool.
curious.
Um, Generally, I think people kind of like the aesthetic. I've been reading some of the reviews about sitting in an open room, and people
Mhm.
keep kind of calling back to that like 2014 Tumblr thing going on with Matt, like 1975 and Arctic
Mhm.
Monkeys, and that's music that we grew up with too. So
Mhm.
I think uh, all lowercase isn't something that would ever go out of trend just because
Mhm.
the capitalization is binary. But yeah, it's just something that we wanted to try out and kind of have more aesthetic control in our song titles.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah, I think it also looks cool because I mean, whenever I think lowercase, I kind of think kind of journaling or something like just
Hmm.
not super formal. I guess I don't know. I think it has like a cool look and it feels more it feels more indie. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think people can see the song title and see that it's in lowercase and be like, okay, I know what this might kind of,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
kind of an instant call to genre.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just taking some notes here. So
You're good.
um it's really interesting that you bring up, like, having like kind of grown up on, like, 1975 Arctic Monkeys, bands like that, and like, so obviously having grown up with that music, that influences what you do, but also you've seen like those artists kind of as their styles have changed through the years and stuff. So do you guys have any plans to like kind of change your sound as time goes on? Kind of think like, I don't know, like the evolution of, say, oh gosh, my big example for this is like Panic at the Disco, how like each album has a totally different like feel, vibe to it. Or do you plan on, like kind of trying to stay true to your starting point here?
I think for the future, I mean, we definitely want to experiment more. I think that's something that we've been talking about, kind of pushing our songwriting abilities, and kind of coming out of our comfort zone. Because right now, I mean, we are kind of sticking to this like nostalgic, cinematic sound, and I think it would be cool in the future, to try to evolve out of that and not force anything, but let it come kind of naturally. I think that's the goal for the band.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like even the way we record kind of shapes what we write a good bit. Like, and because we are like a laptop band that records everything in our bedrooms, like that definitely shapes how you write when you write as you record, because it's a very kind of like non-linear writing process, right? Like we don't really, a lot of bands will like have the song written and rehearsed and they go to the studio and they're well practiced and they get it out. But we very much so will change kind of everything as it goes. So kind of the end product will have a recorded guitar take from like July, and then a bass line from November, and then like a drum line. Like it's always kind of building on top of each other. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely I think in the future we've talked about like with proper funding, like kind of getting studio time. And I think already the different environment and the different method which we record a song, it would really change the sound.
Okay. Interesting.
Mm.
um I kind of want to go back to that comment about, this nostalgia, the cinematic kind of feel that we were kind of mentioning here. So like your Spotify page, says, you're a nostalgic band, like really that's all it says, which I think is a really interesting it's like, what exact, like when you think of this nostalgia that you want to kind of evoke, like what kind of like things are you wanting to, bring back? Does that make sense?
Yeah, are you talking
Yeah.
about the emotions we're trying to evoke from it? Like what kind of nostalgia
Yeah.
we're trying to bring back?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess like a good old days kind of feeling.
Probably.
Yeah.
Like
I kind of like grew up a lot looking more to like looking back to the past rather than looking towards the future, I think, and always kind of having this thing in my head where it's like, oh, the past was always better, or back then things were better. And I think kind of writing songs that embody that emotion of like the past, nostalgia, or like a feeling that you can't describe. I think that's the goal that I try to aspire to whenever I'm writing these songs.
Okay.
Just like an indescribable feeling, I guess, of the past, or like missing out on something.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm like trying to like make sure that I'm like still on track with what I wanted to ask,
You're
and like
good.
stuff like that. Okay, let's see. Um, let's go for a kind of chiller, easier question. I know that I've been asking a lot of really wordy things. So who is your dream collaboration partner? Like if you could work with anyone.
Um, I think for me, I would really like to work with the Strokes.
Okay.
The Strokes would be super, super cool.
Yeah.
Or Death Cab for Cutie. that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, Death Cab probably for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think Young the Giant would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are from Charlotte?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a I'm in Chapel Hill right now. There's a concert that's like a night out with Young the Giant, and it's just like them like playing through one of their albums. It's really cool. I might see if I can get out to that. But anyways,
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like I definitely can like find like little pieces of those artists in a lot of your stuff, and I think it's really cool to like, be like it's like kind of something you're aspiring to, but also something that you're already doing, and I think that's really awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like streaming the EP and I just had it like looping last night and I was like, this is so good.
Thank
So
you.
I consider myself a fan now for sure. But
Thank-
yeah, absolutely.
We'll be at Cat's Cradle in February.
Oh no way. I'll definitely have to make it out there then for
Heck
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll be there. Oh my gosh. Cool. So I kind of want to talk about like the writing process. So obviously, like, a lot of artists will write just like on things that are going on in like their life and stuff like that. Like, do you find yourself drawing more from that or like kind of building these like narratives, like kind of from scratch?
A lot of it comes from like the subconscious.
Okay.
Um, I look back at a lot of the lyrics and I can't figure out what they mean.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, that's a lot of my songwriting process. I'll kind of look back at the lyrics and kind of figure out a meaning whenever the song is done being written, I
Mhm.
think, which I mean might be kind of strange to other people because I know a lot of people kind of come up with, I don't know, a storyline or a narrative and then write about that. I think for me, it's a lot of subconscious
Mhm.
ideas just getting put on paper.
Kind of like a train of thought, sort of.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Interesting.
which is interesting, yeah, because I kind of look back and I can apply certain lines or something and figure out what they mean. So
Okay, cool. So it's kind of like, so I just want to clarify. So it's like you don't necessarily have it like pre-planned, but once you have it, you're like, oh, that's what that's supposed
right,
to be.
right, and
Interesting.
it's sometimes scary because I mean I'll write about it and I'll see something and be like, oh, that's what that means. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of how that's how my process works with
that's really
songwriting.
cool. I really dig that.
Cool.
Do you have any lines that like haven't still that you still haven't quite figured out, anything that's just like really just kind of like it, or does it always kind of come pretty quickly? You're like, oh, okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah, there's a line on Late Hour that says I don't want to fight you anymore, and I still
Mhm.
don't know what that means, but for some reason I had to write that.
Okay, okay.
I'm still trying to
Um,
figure that one out. And there's probably more. Um,
but that one really sticks out.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
Something I like is everyone, I think we write the kind of music that everyone can kind of assign their own meaning to,
Mm-hmm.
which I think resonates with people. And that like there was a fan once that was asking for like the chords to Quiet Days or whatever, so he could sing it to his girlfriend. And it was like, oh, that's sweet. That's not at all what Mikey meant when writing that song. That wasn't really the meaning, but I'm glad that it can kind of be that.
hmm
Because from my understanding of the song, that's like very far from it. But yeah,
That's cool.
I
So like
like that it can be dynamic.
absolutely. And like I mean it also sort of builds this like more intimate community between y'all as artists and your fans. And I think that's really awesome because like,
Yeah,
it's like everyone's kind of getting their own thing from it, but like that's really cool. I like that.
yeah.
um let's see. What else was I thinking? We talked about before how y'all said like, you're like a laptop band and stuff like that. And so kind of you know, having, especially like having been founded, kind of in the midst of this pandemic, like I'm sure there were plenty of like challenges to getting started. So what's been like your biggest obstacle towards that?
I think on the writing side, it's been kind of great because I mean you spent a lot of time indoors, I guess,
Mhm.
which gave me a lot of time to write. I think the biggest obstacle was just being a COVID-born band. Like we couldn't play shows immediately. Like we had to wait like a year before we could play. So we had to build our audience online, which was great. But it would have been nice to kind of get out on the road a little earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been tough too, like living in Charlotte because there's not a whole lot of like an indie scene here.
Yeah.
It's mostly kind of like punk and jazz. So all of our best shows we typically have to kind of go out somewhere for.
Okay.
And so it is kind of a little difficult sometimes to establish that local connection. I think a lot of that has to do with how Charlotte's built and that like any young person is kind of like in an apartment. So like you can't really do any house shows and you just have to go to venues and
Right.
yeah. And it's kind of like a
So,
different audience at that point.
right, understandable. In terms of like being on the road earlier, how do you think that would have like, what do you think the impact of that would have been?
I just think we would have had an online following and we would have had kind of a more in-person following, I guess, like really building that connection face to face rather than online.
Right.
I think
Okay.
we were all getting a little frustrated just doing everything online, like all of our TikToks, like everything was just online. We weren't kind of connecting with anybody in person.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And as for like, like you said, not having that huge indie scene in Charlotte, like where do you think, like, if you had to pick somewhere, like where do you think you would thrive the most? Like in terms of like the actual location.
I think thriving the most, it would definitely be on the West Coast. We do have a pretty big following over there
Okay.
right now. But obviously, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think my dream's always been to live in New York, but
Okay.
if it doesn't make sense for the band, probably gonna have to go to the West Coast if it doesn't make
Okay.
sense.
Okay. Is that something that you might consider down the line or even like, relatively soon, you think? Or do you think you're probably going to stay put for a little bit?
I think we're all like trying to just figure out where we're gonna relocate to. I don't,
Okay.
that's
So that's
still,
already in the talks.
yeah, I mean, we all are certain that we're not gonna be living in North Carolina for the next 2 years.
Right.
So I think we're all planning on going somewhere.
Okay.
It's not weird yet, though.
Awesome. That's exciting. Well, I'm sure you'll always be welcome back to the state with open arms. I can tell you that much.
Oh yeah, for
sure. Yeah.
So I guess we kind of talked about this already, but like now that you have gotten started, you've got these followings, kind of, you've got these followings of people and you've got these fans who really love what you're doing. Like, where do you see things going? Like, if you were to look forward, you said like, 2 years, but like even like past that, what would be like the ultimate like kind of dream goal? Like headliner tours or like what's like
Yeah, I mean the whole thing. I mean the touring, being signed to a label that we love.
I think European tour is something that I would really push for because I think that'd be really fun.
I think European tour, I would really feel like we made it.
I'd freak out. If we were in Europe,
Yeah.
I would freak out. That would be the craziest thing ever. Like just playing in France. Like that would just be crazy.
Yeah, like going somewhere where people would be like, oh, you have like an accent. And it's because of our music would be really crazy that like we had to like fly our guitars overseas.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I think that's
Yeah, I
what
think that's
I think just like in every avenue that we can take, I think just like reaching the highest possible level
mhm.
will make it. So it's just like aim high.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you aim low, you'll end up hitting even lower. So
It's also a little bit of like a scaffolding process in that like we started being like, oh, we should get 50,000 streams. And we were like, oh my God, 100,000 streams, like steak dinner. And then it was like 1 million and then a Spotify editorial that like, I think our minds just keep kind of getting blown in like a kind of like way that builds upon each other. Which is nice and that it's contagious to kind of just look forward to those small goals.
Absolutely. And I mean it's good that like, it's great to kind of look back on those goals too and be like, oh, that I thought that was impressive, but look at where I am now. And like that's really cool.
yeah, it is kind of crazy. I do have like a journal with all the goals that I wanted to reach from 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
It said I I think it was like reach 20,000 streams on one song or something
Yeah.
like that. And then it was like reach 10,000 followers on TikTok. And I'm just like looking, I'm like, holy shit, like we got past all of this.
Yeah, like way past.
That's so awesome. Um, does the journaling, like the journaling thing, and I know this is like kind of a weird question, does it like influence like, the music at all? Like, these very personal kind of um like I guess I'm just trying to figure out like what role it plays, at least in your life,
You said in terms of like of journaling?
Yeah,
You mean
like,
setting a
keeping a
goal?
journal and like keeping track of all these things. Is it just more so like, you're like, oh, I'm gonna look at this down the road and be like, wow, look at all this cool stuff that I did, or like, is it like any, like what's the special thing about it
I
for
think
you?
I believe in I think I believe in a little bit of manifesting.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Because it seems like when I write something down, it tends to happen.
Hmm.
So I think for me, um, writing down goals and then reading them every morning, because I have goals for this year also written down up
Hmm.
here, and I read them every morning.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, I think it just helps because it kind of just reminds you every day
Yeah,
what you
absolutely.
uh,
Are there
so.
other ways that y'all see it as like manifesting your success? Like other than like, writing things out, like, like aside from, actually, obviously putting in like the conscious effort of like, promoting stuff and playing shows, but like what else, like, I just want to know like the little things that you're like, this is our thing.
Does anybody else want to take that one? I don't know how to answer that.
Um, I guess just constantly, for me at least, I'm constantly thinking about it and constantly thinking about the next song or the next show. Um, I think
Yeah,
just to keep it in my mind just kind of gets me going every day. And I guess that's a form of manifestation.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
yeah,
yeah. I
that'd
don't
be it
think
for me.
there's like a single hour where I haven't thought about something related to the band.
Oh my
That could be
gosh.
a good thing, it could be a bad thing, but I just can't stop thinking about it. You know.
Do you worry about getting like, I don't want to like jinx anything obviously, but do you worry about like, getting like burned out on it? Like I don't want to, obviously I'm not saying this like manifest anything bad, but like,
I think you can get burned out on like how do I describe it? I think it gets to a point where you're like, oh my God, I just want to go on a tour already. I want to play
mhm,
shows. I think you can get burned out just sitting in your room constantly and
mhm,
trying to pump out a song when you don't really go out and make experiences.
right.
Yeah, I mean, from experience, you get kind of burned out on like kind of individual things, but the overall like passion for music doesn't necessarily burn out,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's more of like a like take a break and then like look at it, like step back from it. And that just makes the music better to like kind of step back for a second.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we recorded the EP, I think over the span of like 4 months. And I remember I would just come home like every day and just write, or record. And it did burn me out a little bit. Like I took December off, and then I'm probably gonna take the rest of January off and then start writing again in February. Because it can get exhausting on your brain, like
Hmm.
constantly thinking about writing or melodies or like guitar parts.
Hmm.
So yeah, in a sense, you can get burnt out, but I think it's just healthy to take breaks. I think
Yeah.
it is healthy.
Yeah. And I mean that, that goes for like anything that you're passionate about. Like,
Right.
um, if you spend, too much of a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, I have just about wrapped up my questions, but I want one more, and this is kind of a weird one, but I think it's going to be a good little cap to our chat here. So, what is one noun from each of you that kind of like you would compare to like your sound and like the experience of listening to your music?
Mm. One noun.
Yeah.
That's a person, place, or thing, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Um,
I see like either like an old car or like a box when you're moving and it has some tape on it and like a marker that's labeled it.
Interesting. Okay.
For me, It would probably mountains. That's
Mount-
always what I see.
Cool.
I was going to say a tree, but I don't-
Archway.
Sorry, what was that?
Archway.
Oh, okay. Archway.
Because there's so many meanings. I don't want to get into it.
Okay, cool. Well, I love that. I think those are really, I definitely kind of have more of a understanding of that now. Like just because like thinking of how all those pieces fit together, you know, like I don't know. It's really cool. So, let's see. Yeah, those are all the questions I've got. Is there anything that you want to talk about that I hadn't touched on yet? Anything that you feel you really need to speak your truth on it?
No, I think we're good.
Oh yeah, I think you covered everything really, really nicely.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah, I
that.
appreciate you being so well prepared and having great questions.
Thank you.
It's a good
Thank
interview.
you.
Much appreciated.
Absolutely. You guys made it fun. So it was a pleasure for me too.
Yeah, Spencer, right?
Yes, yes.
Cool. Yeah,
So
thank you.
yeah, and I just want to make sure, where can people find you? Your Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, etc. Are you on all streaming platforms, etc.?
Yeah, all streaming platforms. We're on Instagram, WOAH the Band, TikTok, WOAH the Band.
Okay.
We don't have a Facebook or Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.